The lighting's probably going to be terrible because I'm sitting at my desk, but before I took these apart I kind of wanted to show it, opening up my wave, what are we up to, 17 ships. And something of note, they connected the male and female pegs together, so you're always going to get one of each now, no more 2 male, 2 female. So kind of glad they finally fixed that. A lot of us had an issue with it early on, and good to see they did something about it. We're back with our Wave 17 ships. First one we're going to take a look at here is the Akira-class USS Thunderchild for the Federation, and we'll hop right in and take a look. First off, we have our Akira-class dial here. It's the only ship of its class, so shouldn't be any confusing which dial goes to it. There we have our Akira-class. Pretty standard maneuver dial. It's right up there with like the Borg-class for the Klingons. With those 3 tight turns and that 3 come about. Pretty maneuverable, lacking the 1 tight turn. No reverse though, which most Federation ships have, which is kind of weird. There's our named USS Thunderchild. 4 attack, 2 agility, 5 hull, 3 shield. 3 weapon upgrades, crew upgrade for 28 points. You have evasive, target lock, scan, and battle stations. And each time you defend, if you take no damage from an attack, you may immediately roll 1 attack die. A hit or crit result damages the attacking ship. Kind of a neat little counterattack type ability on there in the name. Pretty mean little ship. There we have our generic Akira-class. You're sacrificing 1 shield. 2 shields a little weak, I think, but 5 hull kind of makes up for it. And you're losing 1 of the weapon upgrade slots for 26 points. Still a good all-around ship. For captains, we have Haze. Captain skill of 5. 1 elite talent for 3 points. And as an action, all friendly ships within range 1 of your ship gain +1 attack die this round. +2 attack dice versus Borg ships. Really neat little ability there. Kinda similar to Dinatra's ability, except this one requires an action, but get that +2 against Borg really is nice. And probably the more useful thing about Captain Haze is that he can be used as an admiral. Gives you a +1 to your captain skill, 1 elite talent for 3 points. And his ability becomes a fleet action, which is a much more useful, I think, for it. Next we have Shanti. Captain skill of 4, 1 elite talent for 2 points. As an action, you can target a ship at range 1 to 2. When attacking that ship this round, you may reroll all your blank dice once. In addition, if the target ship is cloaked, immediately flip that ship's cloak token over to its red side. So a nice anti-cloak ship hunting card there. The reroll is nice to make things stick, and the forcing them to disable is kind of an interesting ability. And we have our generic Federation captain. Captain skill of 1, 0 points. Ship comes loaded with some elite talents. The first one's persistence for 5 points. When you attack with your primary weapon during the roll attack dice step, if you roll a hit or critical result on each one of your dice, you may discard this card and roll +2 additional attack dice, +4 against Borg ships. All hit and crit results from the additional dice add to your total for the attack. Any blank or battle station results from the additional dice are not added. It's a 5-point discard, but again, it's a powerful one, giving you that +4 attack dice against Borg, which is nice. The only thing I see is the limitation, as I read it anyway, is that every one of your dice has to be a hit or crit in order to activate this. Means it's only going to get used in very specific situations. You can combine this with the one captain, though, to allow you to get those rerolls and try to make those dice stick. But definitely a difficult one to get to trigger, but if you do, the option for that +2 or even up to +4 extra dice could definitely deal some damage. Next we have Intercept for 5 points. If a friendly ship within range 1 of your ship is attacked, and your ship's also in the attacking ship's fire arc, you can discard this card to force the attacking ship to perform its attack against your ship instead of the targeted ship. After the attack is complete, you can perform an additional green maneuver. if you have some ways to be detrimental to their attack, possibly some obstructions in the way, or maybe you're at range 3 from the attacker, forcing them to attack you lowers their chances of getting a hit, or maybe this ship's just more durable than the one they were trying to attack to finish off. Has its uses in certain situations. Not a huge fan of 5-point discards, as I've said 100 times in the past, and honestly I think there's better ones out there if you're going to spend the points on it. The extra maneuverability is kind of nice at the end, but definitely think there's better ways to spend the points. Next we have Federation Task Force for 5 points. As an action, you discard this card to target up to 2 friendly ships within range 1 to 2. Your ship and the target ships may immediately perform a target lock as a free action if possible. This upgrade can only be purchased for a Federation captain with a Federation ship. Definitely a useful card in the right situation. Another 5-point discard, but I think this one's definitely at least playable, especially in conjunction with things like high yield torpedoes. If you're made in a torpedo heavy fleet, or even if you're running just a high natural attack value fleet and you want to get those free target locks to use for rerolls, combines well with the persistence elite talent in this pack. Gives you a reroll to make sure that you get all those hits to trigger that one if you wanted to. Definitely a lot of uses in there. Federation always seem to have the corner of the market in action economy, and it's another way to boost that up, giving you those free target locks on technically 3 ships at the cost of keeping them bunched up. But then again, with like Captain Haze in the mix, you're going to be bunched up anyway trying to get that bonus. So definitely a useful one there. So they tried in an attempt to make torpedoes a little more useful. They've tried a new mechanic starting with this expansion, and we'll get into it when we get to the tokens, but all the torpedoes here are using it. So we have our photon torpedoes, 5 points, attack value of 5, range 2 to 3, same as normal photon torpedoes. These require a target lock and then placing time tokens on the card instead of a disable. Your battle station, you can convert a battle station into a critical result. It can be fired from your front or rear arcs. Basically your standard photon torpedo with the exception of the time token. The expansion comes with this additional rules card explaining the time tokens. Upgrades instruct a player to place a certain number of time tokens on them. Player places that many time tokens on the upgrade card and cannot activate that upgrade until all of its time tokens have expired. During the end phase, the player removes 1 time token from each of their upgrades. That's just what they sound, they're time tokens. In this case, you would put 3 of them on there. Each turn, you're going to be removing one of those. The next section talks about continuous effect tokens. Some upgrades will give you a permanent effect to your ship. Once these are in play, you have a certain amount of time tokens that go on the upgrades that cause them. They stay in play until the time tokens are gone. Again, removing 1 time token at the end of each turn. And when you run out of the time tokens, they basically just go away. There's some extra rules for specific ones. And then there's a section for permanent effects. Some upgrades give you a permanent effect. You get the token, it has the purple border, and they last pretty much till the end of the game. Interesting new mechanics. Definitely may make the torpedo weapons useful again. Next up we have quantum torpedoes. 6 points. Attack value of 5, range 2 to 3. Same thing for these. Spend your target lock and place 3 time tokens on the card to perform the attack. If a target ship is hit, add +1 hit to your results for the damage, and you may fire from your forward or rear arc. Again, pretty much standard quantum torpedoes, but they replace the disable mechanic with the time token mechanic. See how that works in the future. It makes them a little bit more useful since you're not wasting the actions to rearm them. They're pretty much automatically going to rearm within a couple turns. Next we have rapid reload. And this is a question mark upgrade we'll get to in a second for 2 points. And the upgrade counts as a crew, tech, or weapon upgrade, your choice, which is kind of nice. And whenever you're instructed to place a time token on one of your weapon upgrades, you may disable this card to place only 1 time token on it instead of the required amount, which basically makes them auto reload, which is really nice. You have to disable this, which means you're going to be spending actions to re-enable this, but at the same time, by only putting one time token, at the end of the turn when the time tokens are removed, that weapon is going to automatically rearm, basically allowing you to fire torpedo back-to-back turns. Kind of a neat thing. Combine it with the Federation Task Force to get that free target lock, and you can really make some interesting combos to pull off some interesting torpedo attacks. Interesting enough, they specify one of your weapon upgrades, which leads me to believe that we're going to have things like tech upgrades and maybe even crew in the future who allow you to do various things using time tokens. Definitely an interesting idea. For the rest of our expansion, we have our 3 shield tokens, our critical and auxiliary power tokens, scan battle station and evasive maneuver token, a disable token, target lock W2 this time. We have our additional rules card for the time tokens, which are down here. It comes with 5 time tokens, and an additional rules cards for the Admiral with our fleet action and our Admiral token here. Our mission this time around is the Federation Task Force. It's a 2-player mission. Uses a larger board than normal. You got a 60 by 36 play area. So much bigger. It's Dominion versus Federation. 240 points of Dominion versus 120 points of Federation. And it's basically a reenactment of the Dominion blockade and the Federation trying to break through to get to DS9 before the minefield is collapsed. They use these mission tokens to represent the minefield, which go away each turn, making there like a timer. And they have special rules for the different factions. And then your objectives. It's an interesting mission. The ship itself is actually a really cool model. Hopefully this means that WizKids is actually learning something and putting a little more effort into their models. It's got that silver look to it that the NX-class ships do, instead of the bluish gray that the normal Federation ships have. Lots of detail work and paneling in there. Of course, really uses a good paint job to make it cool looking, but in the just as it is, I think they actually did a much better job than standard on these. Definitely a cool looking model though. There we have our USS Thunderchild base, 90-degree front arc. Kind of disappointed not to see a rear arc, at least on the named. And we have our generic Akira-class with the same front 90-degree arc only. Overall, it's a pretty interesting expansion. A lot of interesting concepts and possibilities here. I think it's slightly better, in my opinion, than the Defiant. Really, the big hindrance here is lacking crew slots, which are normally what the Federation's strength are. Having only 1 crew slot on the ship is kind of rough if you're a standard Federation player, but this ship is built so it doesn't follow those standard Federation limitations. It's got enough other things going for it where it may not be that big of a hindrance. Definitely worth having one of these in your fleet at least though. Definitely some interesting upgrades in there. I already talked about Federation Task Force. Haze is good, especially as an Admiral. The new Torpedoes with the time tokens are definitely something worth looking into if you're contemplating running a lighter fleet. I've seen somebody run a really nice all-reliant fleet using Torpedoes. Using these new ones might be an interesting idea for them for the auto rearm on there, combined with Federation Task Force for the free target locks. Definitely a lot of possibilities here if you're trying to look for something like that. Have to see how well the time tokens do, but it looks like that's the way most of the stuff's going to be from this point forward. Don't know if they're going to go back and errata the old ones. Probably not. It's a lot of work, and there's nothing wrong with having the variety of having both types out there for more options as well. If you play in a Borg heavy meta, a couple things in here that really give you that extra bonus against Borg, which are always nice. Persistence and Haze. And the name version of the ship's counterattack ability is definitely something interesting to keep in mind. all around though, it's a good ship. Can't wait to see where we go from here. And we'll see you in the next video.